All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. With uncertainty comes so many different types of emotions, and today I've invited Ivor Lok on the show to talk about dealing with uncertainty, whether it's from a personal perspective, work, career, family, economy, and the different ways that we can deal with uncertainty. Now, Ivor is a peak performance coach. He's been studying human behavior for over 19 years, has completed over 15,000 coaching lessons. And he has worked with many different people, which you've probably heard of, from Tony Robbins to Bob Proctor, coaches, and has been coaching people for many years. Ivor comes at things from a psychological point of view, but even from a strategic perspective. And Ivor, I think you should probably talk about your history. You'll probably do it a lot better than I can. But all I can say is I've seen your work. I've seen you talk, and I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you, Michael. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and to talk about the topic of uncertainty is absolutely so essential at any time of life, in a way. And when we really think about uncertainty, it's something that people don't like to have, in a way. And but I'll explain that a little bit later on, why uncertainty is so important in one's life and why we yearn for uncertainty, but yet we don't enjoy it, in a way.
Yeah, and before we jump into it, can you maybe give, for those that haven't seen you present or talk or even seen some of the work that you've written, can you maybe give a bit of a background on your history and why something like this is such a big topic that you're so passionate about?
100%. Look, I always say that when I first started out in my 20s, and I'm going to give my age away pretty soon, but when I started, really, I was what they call an angry, arrogant arsehole. And I didn't know how to deal with uncertainty, didn't know how to deal with people, didn't know how to deal with life, per se. And until I actually got involved with personal development, and personal development has actually saved my life, in a way. And it's something that I'm really passionate about, because I know that we can live a happier, more relaxed life every single day if we choose to. And that's the big word. And that when we choose to live that way, we can absolutely live that way. However, most people choose to live life on the other side, looking at everything that's happening from a negative perspective, whether it's interest rates, whether it's not having enough money, whether it's having an argument with their loved one, or arguments with their children, or having somebody do something to them, or perceived having something done to them. And I think the way that we perceive life is so important, because if we don't get a grasp of having and looking at life in a completely different way, we have this ability to actually what we call suffer. And most people at the end of the day are suffering because of the way that they view life.
And what does uncertainty create all this emotion? I mean, I think the simple way to explain it would be that, as humans, we like to be comfortable, we like routine, we like knowing what's around the corner. But is there more to it than that? Is there because to some people they love uncertainty. For me, yes, I'm not massively comfortable with it, but I like the fact that next week things could be completely different to this week. Whereas others, their comfort zone is very, very, a lot smaller than that, and they absolutely hate it.
100%. I think the thing is we love things to be certain, but let me put it in this way. When we actually really look at certainty, and it's really a fundamental human need, Tony Robbins talks about it all the time. He talks about our 6 human needs, and one of them being certainty. And when we actually have a look at certainty, certainty gives us a bit of a thinking process and a mental attitude that says everything is going to be okay. So when we look at certainty, and everybody yearns for it, they want everything done in a certain way. They want it, it's called habits in a way. They want it done this way. They want it done that way. They want it done that way because they know what the result is going to be at the end of the day. Or they think they know what the result is going to be at the end of the day. However, when we have a look at certainty, and I'll ask you this question, Michael, because it's really interesting, and I want all of your listeners to think about this as well. When you think about certainty, I want you to think about, so if you had to have your favorite meal, and it had to be your favorite meal, your last meal of your life, what would that be? And I'll throw that towards you, Michael. What would be your favorite meal that you'd have?
Oh, for me, it would be, my wife makes this thing called mlakhiyi. It's like a
Okay.
Middle Eastern food, and it's if I know I'm having that for dinner, I don't eat all day.
Fantastic. I should come have some of that as well.
Oh, it's amazing.
Well, look, the thing is, okay, that's great. So you know that is one of your favorites, okay? So what if I said I offered that to you for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? How would you feel then?
Feel great.
Feel great? Awesome. So if I did that and I offered you that for a month, how would you feel?
I'd feel okay.
Okay.
Probably want
What if
something
I
slightly.
offer
I'd probably
you,
want to spice it up a little bit, but
you want to spice, you're starting to
I
spice
mean,
it
it's
up
actually
already.
funny you
Okay.
say this. So just my wife at the moment is interstate seeing her family, and she's got the kids. Before she left, she made me a massive pot of this stuff. So I've literally had it for lunch and dinner for the last 3 days.
Oh,
So it's
fantastic.
actually really ironic that you're asking me this question, but
That's okay. But what happens if I say to you, all I'm going to give you is your favorite food every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next year? What would
yeah,
you say then?
I'd get over it. I'd want something.
You'd get over it. Okay. You'd be like, oh my God, I can't handle that, and I'm done. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Even though it's your favorite food. And this is the problem with everybody. They have this thing that they go, well, we'd like that and we want that continuously. But somewhere along the line, we kind of break away from it and go, wait a minute, we're not satisfied with that. We're not satisfied just to have our favorite. And remember, it's your favorite food every single day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next year. Now, there are some people out there that I know, and I even say that even for those habitual people that have the same food, they will still seek some sort of variety at the end of the day. Okay? So as you can see, when we actually look at what we want for certain, in reality, what we're really seeking is a bit of variety. Okay? And we call it in our world, variety is the spice of life, in a way. And when you think of most people, when they go out to eat, they very seldom eat the same food constantly every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're always going to mix it up. So this is the one thing that the way that I can explain uncertainty. Uncertainty is exactly the same way. Because we yearn for certainty, but yet we seek uncertainty more, in a way. Okay? So that's the first mindset change that people need to make, is that it's a natural occurrence to seek uncertainty. Because when you really have a look at it, if you had everything happening the same way, your life would be pretty boring, wouldn't it? Okay? So when we're getting into this world which we perceive as being uncertain, really it's just giving us variety. So when I actually coach somebody, I don't really coach them on how to manage certainty. I actually coach him on how to manage uncertainty. I don't coach him to live an easy life. I coach him to be able to, what I call, weave through life and being able to manage what's actually coming at them. Because you don't know, you love uncertainty, so you love that whole process of something coming at you and then having to deal with it ultimately. Correct?
Yeah, that's true. That is
Okay.
true. But then there's people that you meet, for example, that have had the same job for the last 20 years. They eat the same thing for lunch. They have the same coffee in the morning. They wear the same clothes, and they're happy. And they say that they're happy, and sometimes it's because they're scared.
Well, very scared. And again, I would still hesitate to say that even with those people, they still seek some sort of variety. They might say, okay, well, I'm going to shave all my hair because I never need to worry about having a type of hairstyle, or I'll wear a certain type of clothes because I don't have to worry about those type of clothes. But those type of methodologies, you're going to put it out there, is more of a strategy of how to save time rather than a strategy of having certainty in a way. Okay, so somebody that says, okay, well, I've got 5 shirts, white shirts, and 5 black suits, and I have 7 of the same shoes that I wear all the time. Even in all of that, even although it's similar, it's not the same, because in that they probably have a favorite pair of black shoes, a favorite black suit, and a favorite white shirt that they probably want to wear in a way.
And also then if somebody's going through uncertainty, so from what it sounds like, one of the first steps is to remind themselves that this is normal, and that we need uncertainty in our lives. Is that sort of the angle that you're coming from?
Well, the thing is, it's when uncertainty is coming at us, there's one thing that we've got to see, and we've got to see things as they are. Because what actually happens is that when something is coming at us, we generally try to measure it off against something happening in our past, or even worse, we then take it into something that's going to happen in the future, in a way. And I think future driving something is even worse than actually looking at the past and saying, well, this happened to me now, this happened to me in the past, so therefore it's not a good thing. What's worse is when somebody takes it and says, okay, what's happening to me right now, and then future drives it and says, well, this is going to happen to me in the future. And that probably is the worst thing that somebody could do, because when they future drive it, they're actually then inviting it into their life. They're actually going to create that path. They're going to create that future in a way. So when we actually think about when we're having uncertainty, is sit down, and the first thing that I say to people is breathe, because we forget to breathe. When you think of somebody panicking, for instance, all you got to do is get them to breathe. Because when you get them to breathe, it then settles them down. It's like a child. You got children?
Yes, 3.
I got 2 beautiful girls. And when they're crying nonstop and we say to them, what's wrong? They can't explain anything to us, can they?
No.
Because they in this kind of like this whole kind of paradigm that they're not sure how to manage that emotion. And strangely enough, as adults, sometimes we throw tantrums, and when we don't know how to manage our emotions in that period of time, we're throwing a tantrum and we don't know how to explain to anybody what's wrong. So the first step is really like with a child, is to get them to breathe, And I always say to my kids, when they always say to them, it's okay, it's going to be okay. I just want you to simply breathe. Because I think that's the easiest thing you can help anybody with, is to get them to breathe. It's not hard. You don't have to be a psychologist to do that. You don't have to be some sort of wizard to do it. All you have to do is say to them, I just want you to take deep breaths.
And when it comes to breathing, I guess it's and correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes it could be even taking a mental breath, taking a break and just processing what's happened, or what this uncertainty is that someone's dealing with. Because I can imagine as humans, like when something happens, we straight away, there's that, there's the neurological side of things in our brain, which is that quick action or defense, or, putting up the guards instantly just to sort of deal with what's going on. But breathing, I'm assuming, it just creates that opportunity just to sort of relax for a second and process what's going on.
100%. It's calming down the nervous system in a way. Okay. And if you're listening to this at the moment and you have anxiety, or you have like moments when you just absolutely, what I call, freak out, just simply take some nice deep breaths. And it's not like specific deep breaths. It's just like big, very deep breaths, like, And if you take that breath now, it's very relaxing because most people actually don't take the time to breathe at all. We're moving through life so quickly, and when we're moving through life so quickly, everything is just like 100 miles an hour. And when it comes to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, we just forget to breathe. Okay. And as soon as you take that deep breath, and you get anybody to take a deep breath when they're having anxiety, or when they're having a moment, as I call it, a nice deep breath in and out. Once you do that, you do have a very calming sensation coming into your body. Okay. It's in that moment that you can then ask somebody, because we're then basically changing their state. Okay. Because when people are freaking out, you've got to be able to change their state of mind and their state of being. So sometimes when somebody can breathe, you might want to then walk them over to another spot. It might not be far away. It might be like 3 meters away, and ask them to do some more deep breathing. Because what you're then doing is you're disassociating them with that moment in time and providing a new moment in time, which is now a place of calm in a way. Yeah. So once you've got that, you can then go through the next state, which is really having a look and asking the question, so what's really happening right now? What's really happening right now? And then looking at it and seeing things as what they are right now. Not future driving it, not looking at the past, but looking at it right now. And I hear a lot of people, they tell me this is happening and this is happening because of X, Y, Z. Okay. What's this moment in time got to do with X, Y, Z? X, Y, Z happened in the past. This moment in time is brand new. So how can you relate what's happening right now to anything previous? And this is what happens a lot, actually, Michael. What actually happens a lot in it is that people take those moments and then they're related to all these other moments. And this is what we call stacking. Yeah. So as we stack them and as we stack these bad moments together, we have this like heaviness on us. We carry this burden because we've got all of these stacked moments on us. And when you have all these stacked moments, how are you going to feel about that? If you're relating everything else that's happened bad in your life to this moment right now, in a way. So you've got to assess where you are right now, then ask the next question, which is, so how can I see this better than what it is right now? Not that worse than what it is right now, better than what it is right now. Because if you can ask that one question, then you're actually now future driving it, but you're future driving a result that you'd want in the future. How can you make this better right now?
And I think that then borders onto the whole, being optimistic about things, and how, you've got pessimists and optimists. And I think what you're explaining for an optimist would be probably quite easy for them to do, because they can look at a situation and, ask themselves, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Let's look at the opportunity in this. But then there are some which, there's many people that admit that they're pessimists. So, when something happens, they look at the negatives. And how does someone like that look at this, look at uncertainty? And, for me, when I talk to my clients, when I talk about investing, for example, or changing jobs, I just ask them, what's the worst that can happen? Let's think about that. And now let's look at the things that we can control. And then let's look at what we can put in place as contingencies, or, hedges in a way to minimize the risk of something bad having a negative impact on someone's life. But if someone's listening to this and they're like, yeah, this all sounds great, but, they just can't help it when they're just negative about so many things. Like, what can that person do? And I know that's a very open-ended question, and you could probably talk about it for hours, and each individual is different. Like, there's no single rule. But how can that person, or what advice would you give if you're coaching someone that admits that they're peasant, they're very negative, they hate uncertainty, literally for this reason, and they've tried to breathe, they're looking at things from a different point of view, and they're just still really, really negative, and they're still feeling down. what other exercises or what other angles do you think that person can utilize to help deal with this uncertainty?
That's a great question, and it all comes down to having gratitude.
These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a free 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.
Because when we have a look at it, the one thing, and this is a story that goes back to when I was an angry, arrogant arsehole, and my mentor at the time said to me, something, these two things that I'm going to help you with. Number one, I'm going to help you smile because you're a miserable bastard. And number two is I'm going to get you to realize how grateful you should be about life. This is going back in time. This is going back when I was nearly 30, and I'm over 50 at the moment. So 20 years ago. And one of the things that he got me to do was to read the obituary. Now, death notices, as it's really known, obituary, if you want to know the full word on it. But he got me, at that stage, we still used to read papers. People don't very seldom read papers these days. But he came up to me. I was sitting at my desk, actually at my accountant's desk, in an open plan office. He got me to stand up. Actually, he didn't get me to stand up. He gave me this newspaper and he said, read this. And I said, what is that? And he said, it's the death notices. So I said, okay, I'll read the death notices. So I started reading them. He said, I want you to read them out aloud. And I looked at him and I went, you arsehole, pretty much. And then I started reading them aloud. Then he said, actually, no, stand up and read it aloud. By then, everybody in the office had pretty much turned their chair and was looking at me. And I was a kind of a person at that stage of my life, which was, everybody's going to judge me. Everybody's going to think bad of me. Everybody's going to look at me and go, you're just absolute worst, the worst person on the planet. Anyway, I think he did it for a reason. He didn't only do it for my reason or for me, but he did it for everybody. And he got me to read this death notices aloud. And he got me to read every single one of them. And the one thing that he said at the end of them, which still stays with me today, is that, can you see now, Ivor? Each one of these people will change their lives in a millisecond for your life. So be grateful that you're alive.
Wow. And I could relate to a lot of what you're saying, not personally, but in that I've spoken to many people, and you even need to just read the stories and talk to people that are even going through a health crisis in their life. You've got people sitting on their deathbed, for example. You hear stories. Well, I've heard many stories, people sitting on their deathbed, and, the last thing on their mind is, the car they had or the money that they made. It's the other things. And I love that you bring up the word of gratitude, because, until you have that gratitude, you sort of, or until you think about this gratitude piece, you sort of lose focus on what's important as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, like what you said, you're reading, the stories of people that have died. And the last of their worries was this uncertainty in the economy, or the uncertainty around their job, or uncertainty around what they're doing that weekend. There's so many other things. And I think, as soon as you start looking at it from that point of view, I feel like you start working out what's important in life as well. And when I talk to clients about money, we talk about money, but, and that's what a lot of people think we're going to talk about, primarily when they meet a financial planner. But the other things we talk about, probably just as equal, if not more importantly than that, is their goals and what's important to them, and their values, and all the other things that are connected to that. So it's not just materialistic. It's just something so simple like having freedom or peace of mind. And I feel, so all these intangibles like gratitude.
100%. Look, we know that gratitude is one of the most important things in life. And until somebody has that moment in time, and I was blessed with having that moment in time when my mentor actually said to me, you being alive every day is a gift. So appreciate that, ultimately. And strange enough, it's now become a habit of mine. When I actually wake up in the morning, I can move my body and I just do one thing. I say thank you. Just thank you. Because it is a gift. Every single day that you can breathe, every single day that you're above ground, every single day that you can celebrate this life, it's a gift. And we take it for granted. We take it so for granted that the next day we're going to wake up. But the thing is, Michael, so many people don't. They don't. They go to bed and they just don't know that they're going to wake up the next day, And I've had a number of deaths in my family in the last couple of months, and it was a matter of having a conversation with them, and the next day they're gone. So you got to have the gratitude, because you got to live life. You got to suck the juice out of life. And sucking the juice out of life means that you got two choices. You can either go through life being happy, or you can go through life suffering, and it is a choice. And it starts with gratitude, knowing that actually you being alive is a great thing. It's a gift. And then having a look at it and saying, okay, well, I have a situation. I have a situation at hand right now. Now, if you can't solve it, ask somebody that can, okay? These people out there that are immensely resourceful. And I know that I've had many situations in my life where I thought that I could never solve those situations, but yet I found a way to solve them and resolve them. And it might not have been the best way to resolve them, but I found a way through it, in a way, okay? We live in a world that, as far as I'm concerned, is what I call first world problems. Not having the internet is a first world problem. I had a trip back to South Africa pretty recently, and one of the things that were really stuck home was the fact that what we sometimes take for granted is not always in what we call, developing countries or first world countries. For days we didn't have water. I mean, this is in a country that's supposedly developed in a way, okay? And some days we didn't have electricity. I mean, why? I mean, yes, sir, I can see that it is a problem, and a problem for those people living in those countries. But the thing is, what really stuck with me wasn't the fact that these people were without electricity and without water, but the resourcefulness of them. They went off, and the people that obviously could afford it, they got generators, they got batteries, they got solar systems. My sister actually keeps a water tank which she actually pumps water into it, so that if the water does actually run out, that or they get no supply of water, that she can actually tap into it. She's got battery units all over the place. She's got solar systems. She's pretty self-sufficient from the grid. But the thing is, I think a lot of the times we take life for granted, and a lot of the times the problems that we perceive as problems, a lot of the times is what I call first world problems. They're not real problems. They're just problems that we've created. And a lot of the times problems are created by ourselves rather than actually being truly in existence.
And the thing is, I feel like as well, this, let's say it's a mental muscle. Like let's say this muscle is made up of gratitude, optimism, and positivity. Let's call it the GOP muscle. I feel like this is a muscle as well that, it's something that you need to work on. And as you work on it, it sort of strengthens as well over time. And as we start moving out of our comfort zones more and more, we'll feel a bit more comfortable to keep, embracing uncertainty. And sometimes it could be baby steps. But the more we exercise this muscle and the more we utilize it, I feel like it'll probably become a lot easier for some people as well. Especially that person that's always had the same job, wears the same clothes, takes the same route to work, does everything exactly the same. That person shouldn't go and suddenly move overseas and, find a wife and husband and get married and have kids within, a few years. Like, just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we're not talking drastic changes, but we're just talking just small things. Because I'm assuming it becomes easier.
Look, it doesn't have to be big changes. I mean, gratitude is a very simple thing. It's just recognizing the fact that actually, what can you be grateful for in your world? And I always say, number one, everybody can say, if they can listen to this, they can go, if we can be grateful that we're alive. Okay, but then what else can you be grateful for? I always say to people, have a look at the last 24 hours and really ask yourself, what can you be grateful for? Running water, a meal that you had to eat, maybe somebody gave you a smile, maybe you drive a car, maybe you got a roof over your head. These basic things that we take it for granted. Sometimes, we got to really come back into it and go, actually, we live in a beautiful world, and we have a beautiful existence in a way. I mean, compared to our forefathers and going back, 100 years, we're not exposed to the elements like we used to be. I mean, people were sleeping in tents and sleeping under trees and sleeping, in caves in those years, and used to be so exposed to the elements in a way. But really thinking about where we live right now, I think we comfort creatures, and we're so comfortable that if the window's open, is, oh my God, it's cold, close the window in a way. Actually, wait a minute, that's just the elements outside. The thing is really just appreciating where you are and who you are and what you have right now, and just taking that and going, absolutely, I'm grateful for that. And sometimes even just writing it down, Michael, writing 3 things down that you're grateful for really does help. And just taking it further than that is really having a look at your life and then saying, where the problem that I have right now is only a problem in this moment in time. And it's for long as I decide not to deal with it in a way. Okay. And, when we actually think about I know some people, you said some people, might have an ailment or they might have an illness that they're dealing with. But even that, there are stories out there of people being able to go through and still enjoy an amazing life, even suffering from some of their worst ailments in a way. And sometimes that is got to be their best learnings ever. And, going through and managing uncertainties, getting that gratitude, seeing things as they are, but then remember to have a breath. Just breathe. You've got to breathe. You've got to breathe and really see the situation as it is. And then absolutely having that gratitude and making sure that you have gratitude every day is going to help. It doesn't help overnight. And the thing is, some people this might be the first time they hear this information. I remember when the first time I heard things like this, it was like, oh no, that's a lot of BS. That's bullshit. I don't want to hear something like that. That doesn't work. Tell somebody that actually cares. Tell somebody that, that this can actually help. And I can tell you something right now, from a perspective, I was the worst of the worst when it came to somebody that had a negative mindset. I could see the negative in almost everything and turn a really happy situation into an unhappy situation just by finding the negatives in it. So me being an angry, arrogant arsehole was created by me. It wasn't created by anybody else. But me being who I am today as being calm, happy, and relaxed and flexible, this is being created by me as well. So you can choose which way you want to live. You can either choose happy or you can choose suffering, and it's up to you.
There's some very good points, Ivor. Like I think you've touched on so many nuggets of gold and so many things that a lot of people listening to this episode hopefully will take away and try to implement in their lives. Before we finish off, do you have any last comments or any last points that you'd like to leave people with, or even any resources that they can tap into as well, or people that they can tap into if they want a bit more assistance on this topic?
Look, people are quite welcome to find me on LinkedIn and send me a LinkedIn message. My LinkedIn address is just Ivor Lok. Very simple. Ivorlok. Find me on LinkedIn. Send me a message. You want resources? Just send me a message. There's heaps of resources out there. The great thing about it is that as soon as you start seeking change, you will find the teachers to help you to seek and find change. It's the one thing that I 100% know is when the student is ready, the teachers will come, but only when you're ready. So the thing is, if you're listening to this and going, well, this is a load of crap and I don't really care about it, that's fine. I acknowledge you, I acknowledge where you're at, and I'm okay with that. Okay. But just remember, it is your choice. Happiness is your choice, and suffering is your choice as well. So you've got to decide. However, I know from helping hundreds of people and done over 15,000 coaching sessions that change is possible, and change is possible rapidly as well. So it doesn't have to take years and years and years of study. You don't have to become a doctor or a rocket scientist to have change in your world. It can happen immediately and it can happen very rapidly. But it comes from having the right mentors and having the right people guide you through that. Because there are some people, and people turn to YouTube and Facebook, and there are some people that have a very negative bent to life that say a lot of personal development is a lot of crack. A lot of crack, if you want to put it that way. But from my perspective, I'm very sorry for you because I know that it works. It's worked on me. It's worked on a lot of my other clients. And I know that I don't say these things because it's only just what I've been through, but I stand on the shoulders of giants that have actually helped thousands of other people make the same sort of realization. The one thing that I would say is that I probably know you better than you know yourself. And I've showed this a number of times to my clients where they've gone, we don't believe you. But know this one thing, I know you better than you know yourself, because you are a person of habit and you do have things that are still going on in your mind. And if you haven't done any work around that yet, you will keep going around in the same circle and wonder why you can't actually get out of it. And the reason why you can't is because you keep running the same habitual patterns.
Well said, Ivor. And again, I encourage anyone to get in contact with Ivor that's listening to this. I'll put your LinkedIn URL in the description of the episode as well, to make it easier for them to find you.
Yep.
And Ivor, with all my episodes, I like to finish off with a dad joke. So I've actually got, this is from Christmas Day. There's when you get the those poppers, whatever they're called.
Oh yeah, Christmas crackers.
Yeah, the crackers, and you crack them open, and there's jokes in there. My son gave me this, and he goes, "Dad, you have to use this on your next thing." I said, "Okay." So actually, funny enough, this is actually my first interview of the year, so I haven't had a chance to use it. But what did the clock do when it was hungry?
I don't know.
It went back 4 seconds. That is the most typical Christmas cracker joke you'd ever hear. There was another one. I might as well read the second one. It says, "What did the policeman say to his belly button? You're under a vest."
I'm under a vest.
You're under a vest. It's lately actually on Instagram, I've been going through reels, and then suddenly you see all these funny dad jokes one, and it's good stuff. It's but it's not for everyone. That's for sure.
Oh no,
we appreciate it because
yeah. I mean, you've got to find the funny part of life. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's part of life is to see the differences and just to enjoy it. Ultimately.
That's it. But I think even being dads, I give you permission to use these with your kids, by the way. So no royalties needed.
I'm not quite sure they'll get it. Some of them.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you mean by that?
What's a vest? But no, thank you, Ivor. Honestly, I appreciate your time so much. And, you've sent such a powerful message out there today on this episode. And I hope that, you continue to spread the word and you keep doing the amazing work that you're doing.
No, thank you so much for having me, Michael. And it's an absolute pleasure to be able to serve you and your clients and your listeners.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.